Ciao everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Superhuman Podcast. I am your host, Renato Capasso, and together we will talk about the latest biohacks and scientific discoveries that will turn you from a human into a superhuman. And it all starts now. Hello, my dear Baka friend, and welcome to a new episode of the Superhuman Podcast. We did take a little break for a little while for personal reasons, but we are back with a great episode where we're going to talk all about mushrooms. In fact, today I am interviewing the CEO of Kaapa Biotech, or Kaapa Health. I had the pleasure of meeting Eric Puro, the CEO of Kaapa Biotech, in person, and I also had the pleasure to be on site and to witness the way they work and the way they produce their supplements and their product. Their medicinal mushrooms are, in my opinion, the best on the markets right now. They do cultivate and grow their own mushrooms, and they use only fruity bodies. In this episode, we're going to talk about the variety and the array of benefits of medicinal mushrooms, in particular lion's mane, chaga, reishi, and much more. I just want to highlight a personal story of mine with reishi. With their reishi mushrooms, I was able to increase my REM sleep from 40 minutes per night to 1 hour, 40 minutes per night. How do I know that? I do track everything with my Oura Ring. And so when I saw the data, I was so impressed. And that's why I'm literally in love with their product. But stay tuned, because in this episode we're going to talk about the benefits of medicinal mushrooms and how you can benefit from consuming them. So stay tuned, this is a great episode. Sit down, relax, and enjoy. I always want to start my podcast with the introductions, right? Because we met personally, and again, thank you very much for the amazing experience that you gifted me with. But for people who are listening for the first time and they don't know you, and Kaapa Health, would you like to tell them a little bit about you and what you do with your company?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Kaapa Biotech, and we do a lot of stuff here, but mainly we're very interested in the interaction between fungi and the health. So how does fungi increase health? And we're looking as a company both for humans and for ecosystems in general. So, not only we have divisions like Kaapa Health, which makes, we have our own kind of products, maybe you've seen, and these are specifically for humans to help, biohack their biology or modify their immune system a bit to have a better life. But then we're also looking at ecosystems and how we can be sequestering more carbon from the forest with different fungal species, or how we could be helping filter water systems with fungal species, or many things as well. So I think our company takes a very holistic view at this whole kingdom, which is important to realize. Fungi is a kingdom, so there's there's more fungi than even plants that we know about. So I think when we think about why human health, because that's, of course, we're not talking about ecosystems so much on this podcast, but when we think about human health, why do we even talk about fungi? I think that's the first question, because your listeners and many people in Europe are not having, or North America even too, we're not having a culture of thousands of years. Our culture is eating potatoes and meat, and there's a lot of other things. When we think about supplements, we're supplementing maybe some minerals or some vitamins. We don't think about mushrooms. There may be something we eat that tastes good, or we forage with our family, or buy in the store, we add to soup or something. So basically, our bodies and human beings are more closely related to mushrooms than plants. And that's a phenomenal thing to fully sink into. And I remember the first time that I heard that, actually chills went through my body. I had goosebumps, because we just, oh my God, think of the potential there. When we think about why plants are able to modify our biology or provide medicine for us, it's because we have some similarities with them somehow. And with mushrooms, we have more similarities. So we're both breathing oxygen, we're exhaling CO2. Mushrooms are creating vitamin D just like we are. Mushrooms produce melanin just like we do to protect ourselves also from the sun and the UV. Mushrooms get many of the similar viruses that humans get, so just like us with other mammals, sometimes, we also get those kind of same viruses also with mushrooms. And, we've developed immune systems very much in linear co-evolution with mushrooms. When it split off, what happened is that humans developed a more cellular structure based immune system it's hard for viruses to come into your body, go into those cells, and then hijack that and replicate itself, because the cell wall is very hard to get into. That's the approach humans have taken. The approach that mushrooms took was a bit more on a chemical based immune system, right? So they're developing chemicals to help, strengthen the cell walls when needed, or boost the immune system when needed, or but we have receptors for those, so we can use a lot of those compounds. So when I think about mushrooms, and specifically just mainly 7 to about 20 mushrooms that we're working with on the health side, we're thinking of them as sort of an external pharmaceutical pharmacy, creating all these amazing chemicals that we can take. And I think what's important to recognize is that, this is not something that it's a trend right now, right? So everyone is talking about it. I was just at Supply Side West in the US in Vegas. We were talking a bit at the start of this podcast. And there's a lot of interest from companies, a lot of interest from customers, a lot of interest from people going, hey, how can I use mushrooms, and what are they good for? But it's a trend right now, but this has been something that human beings have been, conversing with for thousands of years. Like there's the oldest known human being body that we found, this Otzi in northern Italy, in the Tyrol area, southern Austria, northern Italy, this area, thousands of year old body, basically had 2 mushrooms on his body when they found him. He had a Chaga mushroom. So, that was on his belt. And they also had birch polypore hanging from his necklace. And we know, Chaga is also good for starting fires, but also has very high antioxidants. It's the highest antioxidant gram for gram. And birch polypore is very good at dealing with like worm infections in your gut and stuff like this. Things that don't plague us so much now. But if you imagine a human being living 2,000 years ago, eating raw meat if they have to, eating whatever. So, I mean, there's a lot more, a lot more exposure to things that are not so great. So you need to biohack your biology a little bit to help deal with that. And having a necklace with that mushroom there that you could lean into hot water, and you could make a very simple concoction and then drink that, is a very powerful thing. So I think we've been co-evolving with mushrooms and communing with them for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. We're now relearning that and re-understanding that. Just like kombucha, no one knew what that was 10 years ago. I mean, and now, oh my God, now there's prebiotics, there's probiotics, and there's postbiotics, right? And we have the enzymes even now. So the amount of information that we've learned about our gut biome has been boom, crazy. But many cultures have included some sort of, care of our microbiome for thousands of years as well. So we're just sort of relearning all these things now.
That's great. And that's so interesting about the fact that humans were, they knew about mushrooms. Now we have all the science and all that knowledge. I'm always fascinated when I see stuff like Chinese medicine and, the things that you said and things that now we know with all our technology and all our science, we know why they're important for us. But like, thousands of years ago, like this sample just that you mentioned, somehow they knew. And that's for me by itself is so fascinating. And I'm glad to hear that the first, the oldest human body discovered that had mushrooms on it was in Italy. Even though it's a different area. It's a different area of Italy. Great to know also that Chaga, did you say Chaga has the most antioxidant per gram?
Yeah. So the auric value is a way that we can test the in vitro capabilities of like antioxidants. So it's not in vivo, but it's in vitro. So meaning outside of the body. And auric value, we really know like goji berries, blueberries, right? We think of those as being high in antioxidants. Mm-hmm. Blueberries about 4,000, goji berries about 8,000. Chaga's testing at about average 250,000, somewhere around there.
Wait, can you say that again? So blueberry, how much it is?
Yeah. Blueberry about 4, goji berry maybe 8. It's obviously just averages because it's a wild, product a lot of times. but chaga can be testing up to 250,000.
Man,
So it's a different situation. I mean, it's
that's like 200,000, 200 pair. Like,
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, in terms of biohacking, I mean, David Sinclair, probably you know quite well.
Yeah.
I don't know him personally, but I love his work and listen to him anytime I can, and read his books. And I mean, I'm not interested to live till I'm 200, but if I could be 90 and I could be, still working, my brain's working, and I could be playing with my great grandkids, who knows, I'll be a happy man. And antioxidants, I think, are a great path to that goal, because free radicals is a big reason why we age and destroys our cells, also our brain, our lung, our skin, or whatever. It just keeps destroying cells, and our ability to then when we replicate our cells, that it's perfectly replicated. So it can damage DNA and RNA. So antioxidants, a high antioxidant regime is a really important thing. And I don't have time to eat that many blueberries, so being able to take just a little bit of a dose of chaga every day is my morning protocol, And I mean, maybe he knew it too. Maybe he knew it. Maybe they knew it back then as well. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, it also, of course, has beta-glucan compounds and these kind of immune supporting things too, right? But it's the antioxidants, to me, is really the amazing benefit.
Do you think so? Chaga, if you would summarize like chaga's main benefits to it, is the antioxidant properties, or you will say it's got more into it?
Yeah, I think when I think about overview of all the mushrooms that we work with, the number one compound is a compound called beta-glucans, and it's a specific kind of beta-glucans that's specific to fungi. So there's also beta-glucans in yeast, which is also part of fungi too, but there's also beta-glucans in oats, for instance.
Okay.
But the type of fungal fruiting body beta-glucans are called beta-1316 glucans, and the 1316 just talks about how the branching looks like. But basically, it's a lot of branches, and the more branches, the better. It's a very simplified way of thinking about it. It can be interacting and discussing more with your immune system, the more branches that it houses. So in terms of processing mushrooms, we want to make sure we're not denaturing that either. We're not breaking those apart. So there's a lot of side to that as well. But beta-glucans is the overarching commonality with all of our species that we work with, Chaga to Cordyceps to Reishi, all those. So they all have certain levels of beta-glucans, and sometimes those beta-glucans can be unique to that species, like PSK and turkey tail is good for breast cancer, right? In Japan, if you have breast cancer, that's what they give you. So, but generally beta-glucans are very adaptogenic for the immune system. So okay. I know you probably know about Seem Land out of Estonia, yeah, which I really appreciate and have so much love and admiration for this guy. And one thing that his new book is called Stronger
health.
By Stress, right? I think it's called Stronger by Stress. I think it's just that word. It's a big, thick book. I'm reading it right now. And I love it because I love that concept that stress is a good thing.
Yeah.
When it's thought about correctly, right? Stress is also maybe what gets you up in the morning. Stress also might be good for your immune system. So beta-glucans are a way to think about it. Beta-glucans are stress for your immune system. Mm-hmm. They're adaptogenic. They're activating your immune system. They're going in there and they're basically kind of waking it up. And they're going, hey, are you too overactive? Is nothing balancing you? And they calm it down. Is there long-term inflammation in your body? Go figure that out. Get out there and go deal with that. Mm-hmm. So beta-glucans is a really important thing, especially since, we're living in environments where, I don't know, maybe they're really clean, right? Or maybe we're not being exposed to natural, bacteria and things as well that kind of stress us out. Or we have a HEPA filter in our apartment buildings, which most do now. So, we're maybe a bit too sterile conditions that we're living in.
Yeah.
So I think that, something like a little bit of stress from beta-glucans is a really important thing to make sure our immune system is functioning well. And I mean, in our company, if you go work in our laboratory, and you're sitting in front of a laminar flow hood that's pushing 99.9% pure air through a HEPA filter, we only let people be there for 3 hours. Because over that can start to degrade the immune system. Because the immune system basically just goes, hey, what am I even doing here? There's no contamination coming into the body at all. So I think it's a really, we have to, that stress is needed, taking in a little bit of that, stress factors. So that's basically all mushrooms have beta-glucans, some to different levels, and they're a little bit different, but generally that is the most well-researched compound in mushrooms, 30 plus years of Western, data and clinical trials being done on that. Now it's been moving to, horses, we have studies, dogs, we have studies, everything, because we understand that our immune system is responding very well to beta-glucans from fungi. But like you said about chaga, I mean, there's always this kind of secondary benefit. And to me, sometimes the secondary benefit, at least with chaga, is to me the primary benefit, because chaga is a very interesting thing. So I could show you the camera. This is, for those who don't know, this is actually chaga right there.
Oh, you got it right there.
Yeah, so it's in my office always to, make sure I remember what we're doing. But it's growing on a birch tree. It's not a fruiting body. It's a conch. It's actually 90% wood cells. It's 10% fungal cells. And it's not exactly wood, and it's not exactly fungi. It's something that they've done together. And what it's doing is it's making bioavailable a lot of the compounds in a birch tree. So it's turning butylic acid into betulinic acid, which is a high antioxidant compound, this kind of idea. So it is not very high in beta-glucans, 10%, maybe, something like that. It's on average. But it's very high in antioxidants. So if I'm thinking about needing an immune support, I'm not looking at chaga. I'm looking at something more like shiitake or something like that, or any of the other mushrooms, to be honest. But with chaga, the antioxidants are just so high, and it's doing a number of things too. I mean, it's thinning your blood a little bit, which is important to note. That if you're on blood thinning medication, yeah, exactly, and we've had customers who are on blood thinning medication, because we can't say this on our website, right?
Yeah.
The European Food Safety Authority doesn't let us just write there, hey, if you're taking blood thinning medication, consider really this mushroom as part of your protocol. Make sure you're monitoring yourself after, because you can have too thin blood. For a lot of us, a little bit thinner blood is actually amazing. It's actually really good, So for general tonic, health tonic, it's incredible in that way. But it's good that we know those kind of negative side effects as well. It's also very high in trace minerals.
Okay,
which also can be bad if you're supplementing a lot of trace minerals. If you're eating a lot of seaweed or bone broth, maybe you don't need to if you're taking chaga. And that's another thing to import, because too many trace minerals can also turn into oxalates in our body, right? I mean, we crystallize them and we push them out through the liver because we don't need them. So, it's just good to, yeah.
Do you know the spectrum of trace minerals that they have? Like, we've done some analysis. I could send you that link, but I mean, it's a whole host of very good trace minerals. And, that's what our body's using to manage the pH levels of our, gut system. So the trace minerals is very important. I think we all could probably use a bit more most of us could use more trace minerals. Yeah, no, it's still because, trace mineral for me are such a big pillar of my, the supplement stack. Always I travel with a small trace mineral bottle, and I just add it to my water when I'm traveling. So again, if I can get more things for one, I'll go for it. And I didn't know they had trace mineral in it. I kind of done any type of tests, blood test or whatever test I've done was always perfect. On the optimal level was always perfect. But again, if I can get, one thing that does a type of supplements, or I would not even call it supplements, to be honest, when I speak with mushrooms, but, let's categorize them as supplements that does more than one thing. That would be amazing. One question I have for you, though, is more of a curiosity than a question. Obviously, we know the amazing benefit of antioxidants, and they're great, and you want more of them into your diet. I also know that, for example, when I do take antioxidants, and for example, including vitamin C and other things, I'll try to not take them before and after a workout, because I know they can impair the, you want a little bit of stress, you want a little bit of oxidation in case of muscle growth. But I also knew, they don't come to mind now, but there were a couple of antioxidants that were excluded from that list. You could actually take them before and after workout, and they would not impair muscle growth. Do you know by any chance if the antioxidants present in chaga could be similar to that? And if not, we can do a research and maybe we can write it on the show notes. I know it's a very specific question. It just came to mind now.
No, that's a great question. I wasn't even aware about not taking antioxidants around working out, but that does make a lot of sense, but no, I don't know chaga's antioxidant profile and if there's been any studies done on the impact for working out. But I will also, I'll bring it up with we have a lead research analyst in our company who's really, we have all these papers and he's always, categorizing them. So it should be something pretty easy for us to find out. But I'll have him start looking at that, because that's a really interesting point, that maybe chaga contains antioxidants that are not harmful to muscle growth for a workout.
Yeah, I know that the time spent when you get it before and after workout is very, like, for example, with vitamin, when I do like cycles, sometimes I just do high vitamin C cycles already, sometimes through IV, and I just don't take it the day before, like the day that I work out, and just one day is enough. Same as I think David Sinclair, but that's another pathway. It's not the antioxidant pathway. When you take metformin, it doesn't take it on days it works out, but that's because of mitochondrial, it's totally different things. But going back to another topic, before I forget, because I really want to make sure that people know, and that's, to be honest, to be honest with you, one of the reasons why I was very fascinated about what you're doing with your company and what the people that are working with you are doing, is that you do something that very few companies do. And I will extend that in all the supplement world. And that's important because a lot of time people take supplements and there is science out there that is very clear about what those supplements do. And sometimes they don't get the results and they blame the actual supplements, the actual compound, right, that they're taking it. Sometimes though, it's not the compound itself. It's just that suppliers companies, and they just use third parties companies, which doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. But, sometimes they use filler. Sometimes you only take 10% of that compound that you are taking, believing that you're taking 100% of it. What I did like about you guys and what you do, and talking about mushrooms, you are one of the few that I know that do this. You actually have your own farm, you grow your own product, you do everything in-house. And that's such a huge thing, because even the very good company that I know in Australia, that they do an amazing job, they still outsource this to China and other things. Which, again, doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but, I feel more comfortable taking something that has been grown, made, and researched, because I know you also do a lot of research in-house. So this is very important for people to know. And I'd like you to share maybe why it's important, and why, for example, a Reishi mushroom taken from you compared to a Reishi mushroom taken from company X can be so different.
So we're basically like, that was part of our ethics starting the company. When we started the company, it was a friend of mine, Lorraine, he's a mycologist, and me, who's more of a business guy, right? And now, my God, I know a lot about mushrooms, but I didn't then. And we were trying to figure out what do we do? We could do anything, right? We could make mushroom leather. We could do mushroom packaging material. We just knew mushrooms was an inspiring place to be. And what are we going to apply ourselves to? And I think what we landed on health, because there just wasn't the companies we saw in the space that had the ethics that we wanted to see. And so part of it was for us is to go, how can we disrupt this a little bit and reinvent what we see? Let's make our vision a reality. Like, let's make what we see the best way to do this actually happen. And I think if you look at medicinal mushrooms right now, the industry is a little bit where CBD was, let's say 10 years ago, right? It was just starting. There wasn't so sure about quality metrics. People weren't, like you said, some products had like fillers or grain in them, or it was like the mycelium, which we don't know has much benefits. It's just kind of the Wild West back at 10 years ago for CBD. But now it's been very cleaned up. They've been a much better job at understanding what are those compounds that are interesting, what do the clinicals look like, how to grow different plants to do different things. So that's what our company is really wanting to do. Is we're not there yet, but we're devoting a lot of resources to kind of cleaning this space up. With our distributor in the US is also a big part of that. So I think we decided to take almost that entire value chain and be totally vertically integrated because we had to. It wasn't like that's a great business strategy either. Most times, like most supplement companies you look at, they want to specialize in the one thing that they're really good at, which a lot of times is the branding and storytelling and education. And they're not then even doing formulation. Sometimes they're definitely not growing, and they're definitely not processing at all. So where we think is we'll do everything that's needed for the quality that we require, and not just bit everything almost. So when we think I think a good example is I was at the biohackers retreat in Estonia, led by Teemo Arina and Dr. Olli Soviari, those guys from Finland. It was great. It was a couple of days, really nice event. And of course, he's giving a lot of demonstrations about how to upgrade your morning coffee, how to, just these kind of things. And for the coffee, or it was actually, sorry, for a smoothie, he was using reishi powder from an Estonian company, but everything was made in, not all of it's made in China except us, basically, for ingredient supplying. So he was using this powder for reishi, and it was the quality metric there was 30-1. So, okay, that's the industry quality metric right now. What does that mean, right? This came out of China. So 30-1, what does that mean? Is it 30 fresh kilograms of reishi went into 1 extracted kilogram? Is it 30 dried kilograms? We don't know. But it also listed beta-glucan levels as the quality, as the compound standard. So so it's a 30-1, and it was a 20% beta-glucan levels. So while our company does it, is we have basically 1 dried kilo of reishi is 1 dried kilo of extract, just about, a little bit different, but just about. And we're testing, most of our tests are above 40% beta-glucans. So we're getting, and that's what we have on our spec sheet also, right? So we're promising to our customers that it's that much. So how can our company, with roughly 30 times less reishi material concentrated into a kilo, have double the beta-glucan levels? How does that even make sense, right? And so I think when the reason there is that if you look at the amount of research and development that we've had to do into how we grow the reishi, the strains that we use, the methodology, the substrate supplementation, we can be producing a very high potent reishi that's grown for medicinal purposes, rather than something that's easy and quick and cheap to grow lots of it, like the strength that China has. So I think we're just sort of reimagining that whole conversation. We're not using consultants from China to help us figure that out. We're figuring it out through trial and error ourselves. So we've done some pretty incredible things because we've just said, no one can help us. We got to figure this out ourselves. And I think that's why I love being totally vertically integrated. Now, as our company, as we're growing right now, we're right now going to be building the largest exotic mushroom growing facility in Europe. We're leaning into this model, right? So in less than 1 year, we'll have up and running the largest exotic mushroom growing facility in all of Europe, because that's where medicinal mushrooms is demand is right now. It's the second leading growth category for the food supplement and nutraceutical industry after CBD for the US market. So it's going big. And I think people have resonated with our way of doing it. They've said, okay, yeah, we like this fresh approach. We like this innovative approach. We like this, let's start from scratch, and I think that's why we're having success. We didn't dream of this when we started the company, right? I mean, we just, this is what we believe we should do. No one was paying any attention to us. I was going to these international medicinal mushroom congresses going, hey, we're doing this. This is who we are. But now of course we're getting a lot of attention. So it's good. Good to see validation.
I think it's important. I think what you're doing is great, and is definitely will pay off more in the long term compared to other things, as people understand, because obviously, there is a trend and people just, follow the trend. But as people understand the importance of the quality, I think now after 40 years of industrial era or more, we understand the importance of the quality of our food that you put on the plate. But to give an example, when I talk a lot about you guys to my friends. I have a lot of friends in Australia that they always come and ask me suggestions for supplements and so on. And although I'm not a doctor, I can give any suggestions. I share just what I think is best. And the way one question that I have is why are you stopping taking? I won't say the brand because it's an Australian company and the guys are good, but I think you just guys are on another level. Why did you stop taking them and take Kaapa Health instead? And the way I describe them is that Kaapa Health is a grass-fed steak, and most of the others are like a grain-fed steak. It's still a steak, but once it's got all the doesn't have the almonds, the bad stuff into it. Plus, it's got more of the good stuff compared to the grains fed steak and the industry meat. And I think you're exactly that. And I think you're doing an amazing job because people are starting to understand the how valuable it is. And I'll tell you one more thing. Now that we got more trackable device, and trackable device are getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
People cannot be fooled. And that was why I you know, already by seeing what you do, that was already pretty convincing, right? He's growing his own stuff. You told me, you know, I loved your approach. That was like, maybe if I grow the Reishi with, you know, with the trunk of the tree moved in this angle, maybe the Beta-Glucans could be higher. You know, you do a lot of experiments. And that's amazing. That's, you know, knowing that there is already that logic into it is like, you know, already make me fall in love with, you know, with the company. But then I did one simple thing, you know, my Oura ring, I was taking supplement X. Again, I would not name the guys because they still do an amazing job, but I gave up on Reishi with my REM sleep, and I was taking Reishi every night from a powder form, 30-1, exactly like you said. That's why I smiled when you said it before. My REM sleep wasn't increasing at all. I started, you know, Inca, we were in Italy together, and she, you know, I was having trouble sleeping because I was working with Australian time zone and so on. And she handed me the Reishi Kaapa Health, and the first night, she said, try those. I did try those, and my REM sleep went up to 25%. And I've been taking Reishi for a long time, but I took your Reishi, and for REM sleep, they worked. You know, I had finally something that I could measure, and I could see the difference. So is that important? You know, I was taking Reishi before, no results. I was taking your Reishi, big results, big difference. So that's how quality translate in terms of health benefits. I think that's why I'll stress a lot about people to know, you know, the way you guys structure things, because I think it's very important and deserve to be highlighted.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, Rado. Really appreciate that. I mean, it's a lot coming from you, as you know a lot about the space, you know a lot about the producers, and you know a lot about supplements, and you know a lot about your own body more than the average person too. You know, and I think that that's what keeps us going, right? I mean, we've had customers call us and crying because they've had a dream and they didn't think that they actually dreamt. What the you know, what is going on? I mean, they really have had such bad sleep and such less deep sleep. They didn't think that they actually were dreaming. And oh my, I have actually goosebumps right now thinking I'm like, it's because think of that implication in your life, right? Think of what is dreams? I mean, we don't know fully, but they're helping us process emotional issues and things that are going on in our lives in a weird way. And they're really helping somehow our brain be okay with stuff, right? And process emotions and process traumas or process whatever, even creative things. I find a lot of dreams. I have a lot of inspiration with dreams. To not have that for like 30 years of your life, you know, so I would just really recommend that people try it, you know. And I think that you're right. I think, you know, now with Oura rings, like, yeah, we try everything ourselves, right? I mean, we make sure that it's working. And yeah, if you're not seeing an increase in REM sleep, then what is the point of taking it, right? And I can't wait to the day that we get there, that we can do that on every supplement we take, every single thing. Because when we think, if I would love to, on our Reishi product, right, you know, guaranteed increase of 10 to 50% REM sleep or your money back. I would love to write that. I would write that today if I legally could. If I could actually write that, if the European Food Safety Authority wouldn't stop me, I would write that. And I think that the how you say that, I mean, the regulatory side is very difficult, right? I can't put the studies about Reishi and REM sleep on our website. I can't talk about why it's so good. I can't put customer testimonials that say those things. I can't, you know, it's so limited in what I can do to explain to a customer. But if customers just had the ability to test themselves, then all that's not needed. We don't need the government to tell us that it's going to work or not. I mean, we just test it ourselves. So in that way, I think it's a really powerful thing, you know, and conversations like this to go into more depth about these things, I think is also very important.
It is 100%. And people are getting more into it. I'm sure from here to the next 5 years, you know, everyone, you know, as everyone's got an iPhone or, you know, a smartphone device, everyone will have some sort of trackable device. We're already in that direction. Probably 5 years is like, you know, is a very conservative estimate. I'm curious though now. I like also to share with people who are listening some of you shared one of the macro category benefit of all the fungi, but I like to share some of the secondary that like you said for you are also primary benefit of specific types of mushrooms, in particular the one that you guys are producing, which you know a lot about it because you do a lot of experimentations. So maybe we can remain on the Reishi. We talked a little bit about Chaga before, and we kind of like open up for Reishi, which is one of my favorite. It's become one of my favorite because of my personal reasons. Right, I had the low REM sleep, and Reishi was the one that helped me. I do also a lot of other things, right, compared to the average person, but the kick in was the Reishi for me.
Yeah.
And for dreams, I just want to open a bracket that is not fungi. I started having dreams again a few years ago, and it's amazing because for some reason I forgot. I haven't had dreams for a while. One of the things that helped me greatly being back in having dreams, vivid dreams, was also NAD IV. NAD IV, an arrival benefit, followed everything correct for it, or he talks extensively about it, but that was also another thing that helped me hugely with having vivid dreams.
How often are you taking that? How often are you taking that IV?
I'll do it once a year. So
once a year, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, I'll do once a year. I know I could do more, but I also know that for me, my supplement stack, the things that I will never change, I do a lot of rotation and experiment, but something that I'll never change, that I'm going with it, is any sort of NAD precursor orally. I personally take, I gave up with the oral ones. I'm just going with sublingual, which are better absorbed, or liposomal, for a maintenance base, and then for a big top up, I just take NAD IV once a year.
IV.
Yeah. If I could do it, if you ask me, what do you think would be optimal for you? I'll do like once every 3 months. If I could. It's not just for the cost. It just, it feels a little bit uncomfortable. It takes a long time to do it. Like, if you do, it depends from the quantity. If you're very uncomfortable on your chest, but that means it's doing something, it's working. A little tip for people who wants to do it and they want to mitigate that uncomfortable feeling on the chest. If you take trimethylglycine before having an IV with NAD, it helps mitigate that sort of effect that it has on your chest, which is just basically NAD. What it does, it almost depletes your metal group. So if you combine that with any metal donor, trimethylglycine as 3 metal donor, will help. That's a very good combination. But yeah, another thing that happened with me with NAD, particularly when I do the IV, NAD IV, is it resets my dopamine levels, my dopamine receptors. Why I make that assumption? Because it is an assumption, even though there are, I think, some studies supporting it. With my work, I own a social marketing agency, and I need to be a lot on the phone, and there's nothing. I have to be a lot on the phone. What happened is a side effect of that, because being on the phone is one of the things that spikes dopamine intermittently. What happens is that you need more dopamine, and it's almost like a micro addiction that I need to look at the phone every, even though I don't need to get a call, I will look at the phone. It's almost like happening naturally. With IV, that need to look at the phone goes away for a month and a half. In fact, it's been proven. Initially, NAD infusions were used to treat people with alcohol addiction. And
my God,
yeah, that was the very initial use of NAD. Then we found out, the other benefit that it has. So yeah, I totally recommend for people to do. Again, you need to go through a clean. I suggest always go through a cleaning, speak with the physician. Everyone has got his own a different health status and so on. But for me, is one of the things that is a must for me to do.
I think it's a supplement that I'm trying to incorporate into my protocol right now. I've been doing a lot of research. It's now been validated for me. I'm just trying to find out what's right. But yeah, that's a good. I'm going to go take an IV. I'm not going to take anything before it. I'm going to see how it is, just see how it hurts.
my suggestion,
maybe I'll bring a friend.
yeah, bring it. Look, I did brought my friends, 2 friends, and they for sure they are listening. I said, guys, come with me, suffer with me with Yavi, because in Australia, I used to say, a nurse comes at home. You know, I'm very lazy when it comes. A nurse comes at home, they bring everything and they do it at home rather than in the clinic. And I was with my 2 friends and we're suffering together. But you know, after a while, you get accustomed to the feeling. It's a little bit like when you train and you like that pain. And you know, yeah, it was good. But if you can, take trimethylglycine, TMG, which is a metal donor. I mean, every time I take my supplements, and that's what I would suggest. And it's not me saying that, like, he's you know, I follow a lot of Dave Sinclair work. Yeah, NAD depletes metal groups, and you don't want to have a metal groups depletion. So that's a very good combination.
Yeah, good.
I love NAD. I could talk. It's my favorite. One of my favorite topics is NAD. I could talk for hours and hours and hours and hours about it. A good brand that I do recommend that I use. There is a brand that I want to try because I know Simlan talks a lot about it, and I do admire and trust Simlan is Do Not Age. But the brand that I use is called iLive by Science. And the reason I like them that is because they make sublingual tablets, and you know, that's the brand. And they're like literally tablets of NMN. You know, one of the precursors is NMN. The other one is nicotinamide riboside. NMN is, for me, superior. But you know, those are sublingual tablets. You just take 2 under your tongue. In fact, I'm going to do that right now, and they're going to get better absorbed by the body compared to if you just do like capsules. And the reason why I like those guys is because they have also developed liquid liposomal, which is again liposomal.
I've been buying that from them right now.
Yeah. Very, very recommended.
That's good stuff they've got. Good brand for that. Yeah, I was taking in Vegas just in case I also got COVID while I was there, so I could just be really prepared for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, good.
But let's go back to Reishi. So we shared the and excuse me, this is going to go in a second. That was not a good idea to take the NMN while I was doing the interview. So definitely, at least for me, I saw a big help with REM sleep. Would you share other potential benefits of Reishi and why your Reishi is better than others? And
yeah.
I know
also high in beta-glucans, but I think it goes. Maybe this is just a really big issue for me right now because it's kind of what our industry is tackling. I don't even know if customers care about this, but for me, it's really the quality standards are very interesting right now. How do we tell a customer our product works and what does it work for, right? And I think to me, it's the best would be that like you have an outer ring, you take our product, you're taking it for sleep. That's your idea. So we know Reishi is activating the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the main function. We know that it's helping with sleep. So, okay, so you take it, you have an outer ring, you know, you feel better. Your data shows that it's better. It's working for you. You're a lifetime customer now, right? I mean, and that's a clear thing. You have a clear benefit from it. You go, this is totally worth it for me. This is working with my biology. I trust this product, right? Everything lower than that starts to not be as good for a quality metric. So, okay, so we have a clinical that shows in a clinical group with 30 people, it's helping increase REM sleep by 20% average. Okay, that's still giving confidence to make that purchase or to think about including it in your protocol for sleep, but it's not as good as you having that experience. A little bit less than that. So we keep going down, right? And I think that, you know, we're standarding all of our material to beta-glucans because that's the most industry-wide thing, but that's not where we want to stop, right? So even worse than that is a 30-to-1 or 800-to-1 or a 50-to-1 or a 2-to-1 or whatever. What is that? Why does it matter so much raw material? Why does that matter at all? It doesn't make any difference. How you grow reishi could have more of this compound or less of this compound. You're always making a balance of how you do it. So I think that the ratios, that's gone. Now we want to start standardizing to the compounds that we have clinical showing that those compounds are doing something, right? So beta-glucans is what we standardized to reishi, but we will be coming up with a whole host of other compounds as well. Because when customers are looking at, maybe you're taking it for sleep, I know people are also taking it for just the immune benefits of the beta-glucans and whatnot, and the ganodermic acid profiles. So I think it's really us being able to clearly state all those compounds. And then our company is wanting to also do more clinicals on our material, so we can help to communicate to a bit more of a wider market, right? What it does. That it's not people who would listen to this podcast, people who, like my dad, who has tough sleeping, I've years convinced him to take reishi, and now he finally is, but he would never have walked into a store and bought reishi ever, and never would have came across this podcast when he's watching the nightly news or something. So I think it's how we can give the benefits of mushrooms to more people. That's, I think, the standard. But I think I like our reishi. We grow a form, and I can show it to you right here. We grow a form of reishi. I showed this, I think, when you're in the factory.
Yeah.
But it's not looking like normal reishi that you see. So this is a form of reishi. I don't know how bad that focus is. But it's a form of reishi called antlers. And what we've been able to find out is that a lot of this medicinal compounds are sort of focused on the let's say the skin, like the outside of the reishi. So it's this really hard, kind of like glossy part, and the inside fibers, which you can kind of see there, maybe not so great, right? So when we're looking to grow reishi, we want to grow it in a form that's maximizing that outside skin. And when you grow it outdoors, or if you grow it indoors and you have conchs, the conchs is a lot of just kind of inside fiber. So we are actually suppressing oxidant levels of that to increase the antler growth stage of the fruiting body. So the fruiting body is antler and conch. We're just increasing the antler part. There's a little bit of conchs also in our material too, but it's mainly the antler. And we just know that's why it works so well, I think, because it's a very novel form that we know has higher levels of these compounds.
Is that because you write on your supplements, you write that you use only fruity bodies of the mushroom? Would you like to explain what that means?
Yeah. So it's not maybe so important, I think, for a lot of European or Australian customers, but for North American customers, this is a big deal right now, because there's many companies in North America that are selling mycelium on grain. And this is a big kind of issue in the market. So mycelium on grain is basically when you take a bag of grain, so it could be like rye, it could be whatever, wheat, berries, rice, and you're implanting on that living mycelium of reishi. So it's the white hyphae, and it's just colonizing that grain bag. Then you open it up, dry it out, powder it, and that's your final product. So it's not extracted, and it's 90% grain. So it's more like a tempeh type product. Yeah. It ground up dried tempeh rather than a food supplement. There's not really a lot of any, the beta glucan levels are 4%, maybe at most, or 3%, because it's mostly alpha glucans, or just starch from the grains, basically, So it's not very many actives at all. In some species, mycelium is actually quite beneficial. I mean, we know, for instance, with lion's mane, there's a compound called arenacenes, which does stimulate NGF. We can get into that a little bit later. But generally, the fruiting body of the mushroom, or the reproductive organ, that's sporulating, is the most beneficial. In the case of chaga, we always have this kind of asterisk, because chaga is not technically a fruiting body, it's a conch. So the fruiting body of the species, Inotus obliquus, there's not really a name for that. And that fruiting body doesn't have almost anything. It's more, and it's very difficult to find it, actually. So the conch is really a lot of the interesting compounds and things like that. So it's a nuanced conversation that, as these 10 years go by, the next decade, our company will be explaining that more, that, okay, all fruiting bodies, caveat. Okay, conch from chaga, caveat. We also use the mycelium of lion's mane as well as the fruiting body of lion's mane. So as we get more educated and we start making better products and able to increase our quality measurements for our products, we will be having a more nuanced conversation around that point. But the main signal is, we're not mycelium on grain. So that's the big difference of why fruiting bodies.
What you said before, because basically, I don't know, what most American companies are doing with that approach is that for sure they're doing something very cheap to produce and more margin, but you're getting grains basically.
Yeah.
And it's bad. It's very bad.
It's and it's a shame that many of the most prominent mycologists in the US are doing that kind of thing. And I think it's just from a customer standpoint, we just need to ask, what are the compounds in there? Tell me the scientific trials that show that's viable. Show it to me. And there just isn't any. There just isn't any. And so I'm on the executive committee for the International Medicinal Mushrooms Society. And, we don't have anyone publishing papers. We're the only society, and there isn't like a second one that's looking at mycelium on grain. There's no papers about mycelium on grain. There's no one doing research on that. It is entirely just a very commercially viable way to do that. The FDA doesn't let you call your product mushrooms if it contains mycelium on grain. APA, the American Society for Organic Products, doesn't let you do that either. So, I mean, there's a lot of regulatory, agencies really trying to stop that. But yeah, it's because the market's uneducated. It's because a lot of consumers are not really knowledgeable about that space or what this means.
Yeah, that's great to share. That's great to share. I'm curious now. You were mentioning something before about lion's mane. Yeah, and that's what I'm very curious about. And I got a couple of specific questions, but would you like to share what you were saying before? Into more details about lion's mane?
Yeah. So lion's mane, there's a recent. I don't have it in my office. It'd be nice to show you. I'll send it to you actually after this. I'm making another link. So lion's mane article. So basically, there's a trade publication in the U.S. called Fungi Magazine, and it's kind of like the scientific literature report for the fungal research community for the US, but it's also very popular science too. You could read it, I can read it, It's not just papers and stuff. And in there, they had a big, long article about lion's mane because it is so popular right now. It's, I think, our number one seller, and lion's mane, it has two different compounds, one called arenacenes and one called hericenones. They're actually groups of compounds. So we know there's actually arenacenes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, all the way to double lettered. And we know that some of those compounds of arenacene group can actually, and hericenones, what they do is they can bypass the blood-brain barrier, which is pretty mind-blowing of itself because that's a very difficult barrier to cross. And when it's actually crossed that, what it does, it can do an 8 times increase of the nerve growth factor, NGF factor stimulation. So you're just washing your brain with NGF. And NGF, we know, is very important to decrease amyloid beta plaque, to increase neurogenesis, increase plasticity of the neurons. All very important things that we have as we're getting older. So in terms of biohacking, that's a great piece of biology to hack a little bit because our body is not wanting to do what we want it to do. We all have a form of dementia after age 30, right? I mean, we all have amyloid beta plaques build up, and I can feel it. And lion's mane is one of the only things that science has been looking at to not only stop that, but actually decrease it. We can actually go back to a place with less amyloid beta plaque. So in terms of a protocol to reduce risk for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and dementia, it's a very important protocol for myself. Chaga and lion's mane are the only 2 mushrooms I take daily, like all the time, and high antioxidants, and then reduce risk of any, brain issues. So I think that's what a lot of people are very interested in, right? And of course, also lion's mane has very high beta-glucans, very adaptogenic for your immune system, all that stuff too. But I think that in a way, that's kind of the secondary thing. When I go to grab a lion's mane bottle, I'm grabbing it for neurogenesis, I'm grabbing it for plasticity, I'm grabbing it for decrease of amyloid beta plaque. And this article from the fungi, this is so unknown. This is such an unknown thing, even in our industry, that the research publication of the group of doing research published this article, right? It's the most prominent thing in North America about fungi research. In the article, they basically said that they have found arenacenes in the fruiting body of lion's mane. And that's just not true. The paper that they actually referenced to that, it misspelled the word arenacenes. And there's no one who double checked that. So our company, we wrote an edit that'll be published in the next quarterly publication. But I mean, that is how unknown this stuff is. So when your listeners are listening to this going, I didn't know about that. I didn't know about that. Like, don't feel bad, because even the researchers who are writing these papers didn't know about that. And anyone who would have read that fungal article without that revision would think that that's the case. So I think that it's a nuanced discussion. I mean, hericenones are in the fruiting body. That's what our product contains right now. But we actually just hired today. Today's Wednesday, right? I mean, actually, just today we have someone who got started in our lab to grow us large amounts, to actually move it from a lab scale to a pilot scale on producing large amounts of pure lion's mane mycelium, which is a very exciting project for our company to get started in. So we we're not dogmatic, right? When we say only fruiting bodies used, that's because where we are right now. I mean, we're not dogmatic at all. We don't care at all about that dogma. It's more, how can we make products that people can feel the results of? And we have science behind backing it up. If arenasins and hericenones are both those two groups increasing NGF and plasticity and reducing amyloid beta plaque, we need to make sure our product contains both of that, right? So if that means using pure mycelium, not mycelium on grain. So this is actually mycelium grown in a a bioreactor, liquid fermentation tank that's just fed enough supplements to grow and expand. And then it's drained of all that liquid, and then it's dried and mixed with the fruiting body powder. That's kind of the idea for the product development. So I think when we think about, where our company is going, we want to have constantly like 4 or 5 of these sort of innovative projects going on. But right now, I mean, our lion's mane is, we've tested it for hericenones. It's good with those. It is helping with neurogenesis and this kind of thing as well. So
it's amazing. And I know it's kind of lion's mane. First of all, it tastes great. The taste is actually very good. Mushrooms, sometimes they taste like, I don't want to say the word, but I just go ass in my head.
Yeah.
I wanted to find another word, but lion's mane actually tastes good. I love the taste. And the fact that I like about it is that it's kind of, you can get like a sort of cumulative benefit into it. I think to really start seeing the difference, you need to do like taking consistently like for a few weeks, because it's cumulative. Because like you said, like you just clean up your system, you pass the blood-brain barrier, and obviously one dose is not enough. You need to do it for a little bit of time.
Most of the studies are about a month of continual use.
A month. Would you here?
Yeah.
I got a question. I know it's kind of specific, and that's what I'm currently. So I don't know the answer to this question. Because preparing for the interview, I did. I love doing a little bit of research and so on. And what I found about lion's mane, which is still one of my favorite mushrooms, is that they have some compounds that they block DHT. So lion's mane. Not sure if you know, but that it might also be good for people with hair loss, because it blocks DHT, dihydrotestosterone, and that's partially responsible to attach to the follicles, and follicles don't grow that much. They stop breeding, and the hair fall, which is a good thing. The other things though, blocking the dihydrotestosterone altogether is a very dangerous place to be, and it does it, but it does it just in a very, very small percentage. So based on the research that I've done, that again is just started, so I'm still doing the research, and I have your lion's mane and I love it. I'll take it. I'm taking it for 1 month, and then I'll take a break, and then I'll take a break for a month, and then I'll take it for another month. So I'm doing it in cycles of 1 month apart. But the one that I think in daily, no stop is Reishi. But in general, with all my supplements, I like doing cycles and so on. But my question is, do you know anything about this, the DHT blocking capacity?
I mean, there's a very active Reddit community for medicinal mushrooms, where there's a lot of discussion about that. It's a lot of biohackers doing, one-to-one anecdote examples of lion's mane, but lion's mane is one of the most, it's also one of the most used. Like, if you're not into mushrooms in general, you might go into the lion's mane because, over 30 clinical trials showing its benefit. So there's a lot of people who are coming from other spaces interested in lion's mane, not maybe other mushrooms. So it's obviously everything's kind of weighted a bit more to the lion's mane side, but people are having some very interesting interactions with that, right? And what you just mentioned is one of them, but there's others. And I think that's the stage that we are with this medicine. It is still experimental. We're still trying to understand it a bit better. So I think that's a big piece, is that we need to recognize that we are at the forefront of this, right? So I think it's You know, I mean, Chinese traditional medicine has used this for thousands of years. We know that there's not like crazy long-term benefits, long-term harm. But we do need to be careful that we need to continue taking, you know, any sort of blood tests. We need to make sure we're monitoring different hormone levels, like you mentioned, you know, everything, be checking in, taking breaks, making sure that we feel, if we feel a difference, all that I think is very important, especially with lion's mane.
100%. And do you take it, do you know of any kind of synergistical, like other supplements that can synergize very well with lion's mane? I guess like one of the very top one is coffee and lion's mane. To be honest, I just take it by itself, and I don't take anything else with it. But I, you know, because I'm someone who likes to experiment, I like to experiment with coffee, lion's mane, and L-theanine. But that's just me being experimental. I read something, but to be honest, I don't know enough about it. But a while ago, when I say a while ago, a few years ago, I read about something like the lion's mane paired with rhodiola could be a very good idea, but still has something to do with, you know, because one, I think, I'm not 100% sure about it, but one's helped with neurogenesis and the other one helped with neuroplasticity, maybe. But I'm gonna read it to it and maybe send it to you, or unless you know something about it. But I think that combination.
We do know. Yeah, we actually. So yeah, just to zoom out a little bit. I mean, we make these tincture products, right? And we made this specifically for the biohacker target market. It tastes like bad, like you said, ass. It tastes bad. And that's, so the point is, we want to get the product out to the people that need it the most, that can experiment with this, play around with it, you know, taste it actually how it really tastes. But we're making more like mass market products right now that can get a bit more of a reach. And part of that is to increase the taste of it. But part of it is also to have those kind of synergistic effects for people that are not trying to totally, you know, like, I want to take this alone to know what it actually does. So people that are wanting those kind of benefits, and Rhodiola rosea is one of those we're thinking of pairing with lion's mane. Absolutely. For exactly some of those, they're really supplementing each other. They're kind of doing a lot of the same thing. But we should be coming out with, we're going to make some powder products because our company's making powder. We're going to be also making some more ready to take products as well. So yeah.
But I have to say something about the taste. I know that, you know, mushroom, that is like the taste, but another reason why I like your products is because I don't know, they're easy to take compared to the end. I don't know, maybe because they mix the way they mix, but they taste the way they taste. But to be honest, I don't mind the taste compared to other products. Number one, and number two, I think that we should, you know, everyone, and that's just not extended to mushrooms, that's in general, we should welcome more bitter taste in our diets, in our regime, because we were made to taste bitter things. It actually helps. I'm not sure if that what mushroom do as well, but I know that things that taste bitter, like bitter melon and dandelion and things like this, they help stimulate the liver. They help the liver. They help stimulate digestion. That is, people should welcome bitter taste. And after a while, to be honest with you, like, I don't feel it. Like, I remember the first time I was taking Reishi, but like, you know, a couple of years ago, like, I could feel, but then you get accustomed to it. You know, I think, you know, I like thinking that way. Is also a way to accustom yourself more even with nature, in a world where everything is super sweet, anything has to taste great, anything has to give you that dopamine things, you know. I think it makes me feel also more down to earth in a way, you know, more platonically thinking, but also, yeah, my advice is like, people do welcome bitter taste, because not everything is supposed to taste amazing and, you know, and great. And that's also another reason why I take my coffee without sugar, without milk, without anything, just straight.
Yeah, good for you.
So, yeah.
But it's also this very Italian thing, right? I mean, you know, you sit down, you might have some bitters before you eat to help stimulate the liver, and this kind of, yeah, I love it. I love that idea. I love thinking about, I'm gonna let my body know that I'm gonna eat right now, you know.
No, 100% is
I'm still a fan of this macchiato. I like a little bit of steamed milk.
No, my cat is good sometimes, but on that I'm too tiny, and I just get an espresso. Funny enough, when I go in there, an espresso or whatever, like people get confused. Do you want a sugar? You want milk? Do you want this? I said, no, just coffee, espresso, in a smoke cup, and man, it really makes my day. But one thing that for me was game changer on my life was a period that I did for like a good 6 months on a row. Coffee with L-theanine. The ratio was 4:1. So where 4 stands for caffeine. So you get, I don't know, 200 micrograms of caffeine, 100 micrograms of caffeine, and 25 of L-theanine, and vice versa. Sorry. And you get that kind of synergistic effect where the coffee gives you, you get like the benefit from the alertness from the coffee, but you also get like the L-theanine is very calming. So you get that kind of calm focus that it lasts for a long time. So if you haven't tried it yet, I need to check about the ratio caffeine and L-theanine. But if you haven't tried it yet and you have like a big day of work and so on, try that, and is amazing. It's very powerful.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, I'm trying to take off coffee as much as I can right now. I've had some stomach things, but it's also I was listening to this Michael Pollan. He just released a new book where he didn't take coffee. I think it was 3 months, and he gave his description on the Joe Rogan podcast of exactly what happened after he started taking coffee again. And he said he was hallucinating, that it's that strong of a drug that we are so, he said something very interesting to me, and this probably resonates with you and many biohackers in a way. He said he doesn't actually, we don't know who our true selves is. We know who our caffeinated selves are.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's so true, man. Every day we're pounding that caffeine. And he said, it's such a powerful drug in terms of changing your reward and work, like that relationship. The coffee break was really what popularized coffee. It was factories trying to get people to be more productive. And so, we think about the stress that we have. We think about the extra stuff. We say yes to too much stuff. We think about this, the connection that we're having in our neurons to do that, to push ourselves beyond actually what we're capable of doing. And then of course the resulting fallout, might be just because we chug coffee every single morning. So I took like about a month off, and that's about all I could kind of handle. And then I'm now gradually bringing it back in a little bit, but I actually started to feel that my stress levels were lower. I was okay not doing as much as I was doing, still putting in a lot of hours as a CEO, but just not feeling just, oh my God, I have to go ahead, go forward, and I was feeling really, I'm a totally different person. It's a totally different me. And many people commented about that. But I think I'm trying to incorporate a little bit, I'm trying to still have that benefit of that high motivation, high energy, high excitement, because that's like part of what I do. But maybe it doesn't come from caffeine. I mean, I've been taking a lot more Cordyceps militaris for that reason. That if, we have a really good paper published this year showing how it's actually increasing ATP production. So just like lion's mane's going across the blood-brain barrier, cordycepine and Cordyceps militaris is doing some very interesting things in terms of stimulating ATP. And ATP, as we know, is our cellular energy. It's what everything turns into at the end. So for the same reason why we're so interested in these enzymes rather than probiotics supplementation anymore, because or you're talking about NNM, right? Let's find the form that doesn't have to be turned into another form, right? Let's try to get to the end result. And I think that is a little bit about what cordycepine is for me. If I could just drink ATP, that would be, of course, ideal. But I think cordycepine is one of the farthest you can get down that chemical process. So yeah, I feel it's a clean energy. It's not a neurostimulant. It's not a nervous system stimulant. It's not activating my sympathetic nervous system. It's just clean, clear. I feel good. My brain is firing really well. I'm not skipping any beats. I've been really enjoying it.
And it's also very interesting how Cordyceps grows, because doesn't it grow on the head of worms? So
naturally. I mean, there's about 100 different cordyceps cordyceps species that we know how they grow, and almost all of them are infecting insects of some level. So Cordyceps militaris is actually native to Finland. It's native to many. It's also native in North America, also many European countries. And what it's doing is it's spending like 99% of its life in a mycelium state in the soil. So just this like white hyphae that's existing and eating nutrients from the soil and kind of giving nutrients. Only 1% of its life, probably even less, to be honest, it does the thing that we all know for. It's really boring, and we know that the DNA around it that's starting the cordycepine production is also a little bit around its reproductive needs. So it starts to go, I need to reproduce. That's the trigger. It waits till it can get into an insect. So it infects the insect, right? And then it sort of takes over the insect's brain, makes them into a zombie that it controls. It makes them walk up 2 meters on the highest thing ever, death grip the shit out of like a branch or a bush or whatever, and then it explodes out of its head and then replicates its spores. It's a crazy world. And again, also like we talked about with lion's mane, the impacts of cordyceps, we also don't know fully either. I mean, a mushroom that's doing that in the brains of insects, what is it doing in the brains of humans? Well, it's for some reason increasing ATP production. Why? We do have the paper that shows exactly how it's doing that. What else is it doing? We know that this is a very important thing for you to know. We work with a researcher in England that is doing work with us for cordyceps, and she has actually mapped it. It also goes across the blood-brain barrier. Of course, right? I mean, it has to in a way. And what it's doing when it goes through the human blood-brain barrier is very interesting. It's actually really messing with this melatonin production cycle, and it's actually inhibiting melatonin production. Okay. So taking it too close, like 8 hours before bed, bad idea. You're going to have a really rough night. It's going to be horrible for you. But maybe if you have jet lag, for instance, and you fly to the US and you need to get up in the morning and you need to reset your clock faster, maybe this is actually a better way to do that than supplementing with melatonin, as we know that has lots of problems and quality issues in that too. So for cordyceps, great. Take it in the morning,
Which, what you said is it's absolutely correct. Like and it can be definitely a bad idea if you take it at nighttime, if it impairs melatonin production, but it could be an awesome thing if you take it first thing in the morning. There's melatonin and cortisol. They just, travel opposite.
Yeah.
High melatonin.
Yeah.
You want high cortisol, low melatonin and high cortisol in the morning. So technically, I'm not sure if I were going, and I'm going to try this now that you told me, if I'm getting cordyceps first, and one of the reasons why I get my coffee first things in the morning, and I get out of, by the sun first thing in the morning, is because you want to stimulate that. You want to lower the melatonin in the morning that doesn't serve you in the morning. You want to bring
as fast as you can.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited. I'm going to definitely try that. And I also want to say a note before I forget, the things that you said for caffeine, taking break for caffeine and so on. I love coffee. I'm Italian and I love my espresso. But it's also a great idea taking breaks from caffeine as well. For your dopamine receptors is very healthy. And after a while, you just get so accustomed to coffee that it just doesn't work anymore. So getting a break is very good.
I think half your listeners just deleted this podcast from their list and aren't going to be tuning in anymore. I was cool with you, everything you're asking me to do until this moment right now, and now we're not friends. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying pause the coffee. I won't do for a month like you do. Sometimes I do pause my caffeine, but for a week. A week is enough to almost reset your dopamine receptors. And you know what? Like I still love coffee, but when I do those breaks, I haven't done breaks in a while. I still take coffee, but I take the caffeinated coffee because I love that taste.
It is so good. It is, yeah.
But
it is.
benefits of the dopamine and dopamine receptors is amazing sleep from night 2 when caffeine is fully cleared on your system. Amazing sleep, heart rate variability higher, and basic heart rate lowered, which is, those are metrics that, if people who see me on Instagram, I pay a lot of attention to those metrics, and that's what a week caffeine break does. But a week is all I can do for now. I take a week break every 3-4 months.
Yeah,
that's
a great idea.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you could take Cordyceps and have that as part of your protocol, that's a bit of a replacement. I mean, I think it's of course, there's other things too, but it's an interesting way to think about that. We don't have to sacrifice that, the energy and the motivation and the excitement and everything the caffeine gives us. We just need to make sure it's something different for like a break, a month or a week or whatever.
Yeah, that's why I was so excited, because for me those weeks breaks and those weeks, that's so hard, but not for the energy. For the energy, I still have energy, to be honest, when I do caffeine breaks, apart from maybe from the first day. But I like the idea to take a break and think something different that utilizes totally different pathways. I know I just realized and that I'm taking a lot of your time, and I do apologize. I didn't realize. Normally, I'm very, very mindful about.
Oh yeah, it's like an hour and a half.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, don't apologize. It's been fun.
Yeah.
If anyone, yeah.
We at some point we're gonna have to do another episode, because I had so much more questions. But I really wanted to talk about psychedelics and shiitake and other things. But I feel also that we covered quite a lot, and there's already a lot of information for people to take. Plus you do already, and you're planning to do still a better even a better job at sharing the content out there from your website. And would you like how people can find out more about you? And if I do really recommend people to try your product. And I have no interest into it just because I do love your product, and I do love sharing things that I take that makes me feel good. So this is very genuine. But how can people find out more about you?
Well, like I said, I'm happy to come back on in a month when people have been able to digest everything from this talk, and I'm happy to talk about psychedelics. Shiitake is also very interesting, especially right now with everything that's going on with the flus. But yeah, I think, let's schedule something. Let's do it again. I'm happy to. This has been a pleasure. But yeah, to keep updated on what we're doing, Kaapa Health actually has a very good newsletter that we spend a lot of time on actually producing. And it's for us, we share content from Kaapa Health. We share content from what we call Kaapa Labs, which is kind of our research and development division. But it's a way for us to engage with our core customers on, new things that are coming out, new studies that we're looking at. So if you're really into this kind of conversation, one way to stay up to date is through that newsletter. So I'd recommend people going to kaapahealth.com and Kaapa, Kaapa, health.com, and just subscribing to the newsletter, taking a look. And it's a good one. And then we also have social media accounts, Instagram, all that kind of thing going on. I have my own Instagram as well. And I would say just participate as much as you want. And I think, learning more about this and exploring more of these topics is a really, important thing for our health. So happy to have you along this long, even though it's an hour and a half, you're still listening. So
no, that's great. I just want to say I'm going to share all the links to the show notes of the podcast. I personally going to sign up for the newsletter because, as you said, it's so new. It's trying to be so new, and things are evolving continuously.
So fast.
So I'll personally join the newsletter as well. And I really, really want to thank you, first of all, for being over the time that we agreed initially. And I'm sorry, I just didn't realize. I'm normally very mindful about the time. I just got into the conversation and I didn't look about the time completely. But thank you so much, Eric. And I invite the people to find out, try your products. And I say that because I really, really mean it. And to find out more Kaapa Health from the show notes. It was an absolute pleasure, and I really hope to have you on board again.
Happy to be here. Thanks again.
Hey there, thanks for listening. Before we conclude, I'd like to remind you something very, very important. This episode, as well as these podcasts in general, is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Listeners should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they may have. Please, if you have any medical condition, consult your physician first. Disclaimer given, I would love for you to subscribe to this podcast and to leave me a review. That will help me a lot. We're just starting out. We have already a lot of great interviews down the line, which you don't want to miss. So hit the subscribe button so you will get a notification for the next exciting episode. I'll see you next time.
Hey there! If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. In fact, I'm recording this from your phone right now. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So go ahead, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hey you there, it's me again. Thank you so much for listening to this episode and to be a Superhuman Podcast follower and listener. I do really appreciate it. I really hope you did like the episode. In fact, I do want to invite you to check the show notes of this episode and of any other episode in general. We do put a lot of effort in our show notes. We try to collect the main resources that can be shared and that are relevant to the episode. So go and check it out, regardless if you are on Spotify, iTunes, or Google Podcasts. We do share supplements, resources, information about the company or the person who we have interviewed, and also a snapshot with the main topics that we have discussed in a particular podcast episode. Also, I want to remind you again, because it's very, very important. We do talk about, in any podcast, we talk about supplements and things that you can try, and a lot of cool stuff that you can try that are natural or not even natural sometimes. The fact that some things are natural do not mean that they cannot harm you. Even natural things can harm you. So, as I said before, always consult your physician first. Be mindful about any allergy that you can have. So, this podcast and any other podcast are done for general and entertainment purposes only. So I want to remind that because it's very, very important that you take your health seriously. In saying that, stay tuned because we have very good interviews down the line, and I'm going to share a little bit of a journey that I'm trying to do together with a company called Glycanage. Glycanage is an amazing company that tests your biological age. So I'm going to share my attempt to reverse my biological age. And I'm going to share that on Instagram and also here on the podcast. I'm going to keep you posted on how that goes. Obviously, it's going to be a long process. And who knows, maybe I'm going to be able to reverse my biological age. If so, I'm going to share exactly what I did with you guys through the podcast and through my Instagram channel. I do really hope you did like this episode. If you did, share it. Share the love with a friend or a family member who you think may actually take these informations for themselves. And again, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to record my next episode. Stay tuned because the next one as well, like all the others, is going to be very, very special.